Hello and welcome to NLPcourses.com. My name is Cassidy-Rice. I have the pleasure to be your host for these videos, where we're ushering you past the velvet curtains and into the inner workings of an NLP mind. Today we're exploring what's either referred to as the 3 legs of NLP or the 4 pillars of NLP. They are the same thing, they just happen to be grown in legs and pillars. NLP is an outcome-orientated discipline. That means whatever we do, we have a clear goal, whether I'm working on myself, someone else, or with groups. Rapport. The word rapport is a French word. It has its roots in Latin, rapport, and the literal translation to that is to bring back, to bring back. So let's rephrase that for our use of the word rapport. I think of it as this: to give somebody the gift of being understood by entering into their world. To give somebody the gift of being understood by entering into their world. Or as Stephen Covey says in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, seek first to understand and then be understood. Now, have you noticed some people's worlds are easier to enter into than others? Now, because I have 5 children, and the only reason you really have children is you've got somebody to practice on when you're learning these types of skills. My eldest son, who is about this tall now, when he was about this tall, we're walking through town. And I live in a lovely little place called Chichester, but any town is busy on a Saturday. So we're walking through town and he says to me, "Dad, can I have an ice cream?" And I said no. Now, I'm not being mean, he'd had some sweets. He starts to demonstrate flexibility of behaviour. He says to me, "Mummy would buy me an ice cream." And I say, "Do I look like Mummy? Do I have long hair?" Now, have you noticed that children can control their parents in busy situations? And that's because children know this law from cybernetics. It's called the Law of Requisite Variety, the Law of Requisite Variety, which states this: the thing or person with the most flexibility controls the outcome. The thing or person with the most flexibility controls the outcome. Children are willing to go to places that just embarrass adults. So to cut a long story short, my son throws himself down on the floor, kicking and screaming that he wants this ice cream. I've got a couple of choices at that point. One is that I could pick him up and carry him back to the car kicking and screaming. Or I could use this as a rare and unprecedented chance to learn something. So I've decided to enter into his world. So I threw myself down on the floor kicking and screaming. He was a bit stunned. So we're now both laying on the floor in the middle of town and nobody stops. Luckily enough, they walk around us, but nobody stops walking by. "Oh yeah, remember I did that when we were kids." So he sits up and I sit up, and I think to myself, not going to be the first person to speak here. And time slows down. And eventually he goes, "It's all right, Dad, I don't want an ice cream." And we had a nice shopping trip. Now, don't get me wrong, the law of requisite variety doesn't mean you allow someone to walk over you. Because sometimes the most flexible thing you can do for somebody is go head to head and not back down. We're talking about, do you have different behaviours? Do you know when to use them? And more importantly, when not to use them. Language. The way that you utilise language inside your own head and with other people is one of the greatest predictors of success in that area of your life. Sensory acuity. Another word for sensory acuity would be feedback loop. So I've got a clear goal. I'm flexible in my behaviour. I've aligned my language. I now need the feedback loop. Am I on track for what it is that I want? Now, all this was in place in the early days of NLP, but there's still something missing. You've got to take action. You've got to do something with what you've learned. How do you send a message to your unconscious mind that this is important? You use it. You engage with the information. So the 4 pillars, and what we really should say now is the 5 pillars of NLP. If you've got any questions about the 4 or 5 pillars of NLP, or any questions at all about anything to do with NLP, please do pop over to our website, nlpcourses.com. Leave your question there. Find the page for the videos. Leave a question, leave a comment. Love to hear from you. And on YouTube, leave a comment just below and I'll get back to you. Thank you ever so much and have a great week. See you soon.